Hey YouTube! In today's video I want to show you how I make flan. It's a really easy recipe. I use a blender, which makes it even easier, and I also don't put it in the oven. So stick around, I will show you how I do it. So this video today for the flan is a collaboration that I was invited to do by Striving for the Simple Life, and it's a collab with Florinda's Family and Harmony Homestead. They're all really great channels, so if you haven't seen them already, be sure to head over and check them out and subscribe to their channel. The invitation was to do a healthy version of a traditional Hispanic dessert. And I know that flan isn't very healthy. I had a hard time figuring out how to make this healthier, but I did reduce the sugar, and that's pretty healthy, right? Alright, so the first thing that we have to do is melt the sugar, and this is not a slow process, guys. This is also something that you can't walk away from or else it will burn, and I'm pretty sure I walked away from it and it burnt here in this video for you. Yeah, you can see it's a little bit darker here than I wanted. When I first start out, I put it on a higher heat and wait till it starts melting, and then once it does start melting, then I try to drop it down to a low and just keep moving it around. If it does melt, it's not really a big deal. It will taste a little bit bitter, but sugar's cheap. You can always just toss it out and restart it. I didn't feel like doing that. I have enough sugar in here that it should be not all really bitter tasting. So what I'm trying to do here is just swirl it around and get that low heat in there, trying to get all those crystals. Supposedly if you stir it, it's gonna crystallize. Anytime that I stir it, I end up having chunks of sugar in there, so I just try to swirl it around as best as I can. And it is getting a little bit dark, but my family's used to it. It doesn't taste that bitter. So just try to get all the clumps in there, and when it's mostly melted, you can turn it off right away, so that way it doesn't get overly dark. So as soon as it's melted, you want to pour it to the bottom of your dish that you're going to cook the flan in, and you want to coat the bottom, and it's going to start turning into like a hard shell candy. Next, we're going to start making our flan mixture, and for that we're going to need 5 eggs. I'm adding them straight to the blender. I'm also going to be adding my homemade sweetened condensed milk. It is so much cheaper than buying the kind already in the can. Alright, to get this stuff into the blender, I am adding 5 eggs. There's a lot of different recipes that use 3 eggs or 2 eggs. My mother-in-law uses 7 eggs. I like it somewhere in the middle, so this is going to be a not so thin, I guess. It's not as thin. It's going to be a little bit more eggy of a mixture. But this is how we like it in my family, so you'll probably see the difference in the texture at the end of the video. I've added about 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla, and I'd say 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and now I'm going to put in the sweetened condensed milk. This is less than a 14-ounce can. If I had to guess, I think I have weighed this before. I think it came out to I think this is 8 ounces. So 8 ounces of sweetened condensed milk, and this is ready to blend up. That's a lie. I have to add in about 8 ounces of milk, and now we're ready to blend it. So I am blending on the lowest speed, and I'm only blending for like 5 to 10 seconds. It's just really to get a good mix on it, but you have to be careful not to mix it too much, or else it'll put a whole bunch of like air bubbles into the mixture and make it like foamy. And this goes right into the dish with the caramel layer, and if you listen close, you'll hear it like a cracking sound. And that is the candy breaking. It's not the jar or the it's not your dish breaking, it's just the candy breaking. So yeah, don't worry about that sound. The next step is to cover this really well with aluminum foil. This is not going into the oven. I'm going to be putting this into a double broiler. So you want to make sure that the sides are pretty secure and the water is not going to come bubbling up over the sides and into the flan mixture. We're going to need a pot that's big enough to hold the little dish that we have the flan in. and one of something to buffer the bottom. You don't want to set your glass on directly onto the bottom heat. So if you don't have one of these little, I have this from in the canning section, and it's just for like water bathing, and I put this little metal clip facing down. I don't have the metal touching onto the glass stuff, so that goes right in the middle. If you don't have one of those, you can use like a folded up towel, like a washcloth or something, to keep a buffer in between your dishes. Then I'm going to fill this with water, just like probably about an inch or an inch and a half below the rim of the inner part, the inner dish that we have there. Once you have the water in there, you want to cover it, and I bring it to a boil, and once it's at a boil, I drop it down to a simmer and let it simmer for about a half an hour. After a half an hour is up, I turn it off and let it sit covered for another half an hour. That's when you can take the lid off and remove the foil and check if it's done. I do this by putting a knife in the middle, and if it comes out clean, then it's done. Let's see, is it clean? Yep, it's clean. Okay, so the knife is clean and it's cool enough to touch. So I'm going to lift this out, and we've got to run a knife around the edge so that it doesn't stick. And we're going to flip this over onto a plate and hope that it doesn't get stuck. Let's see if it was a success. I don't like the way it looks. We'll just smack this down real quick, and that's good enough. Alright, time to cut into this thing and see how it tastes. I know it's going to taste good because it always does. And that looks pretty good. In the middle, it looks nice and fluffy. Well, not really fluffy, but it looks like it normally does, and I know that I like it. So normally this is chilled in the fridge for a couple hours and eaten cold, but we don't really wait that long. And that is it. That's how I make my flan. It is very easy. You don't need an oven. I cut the sugar by half, which you really can't tell, especially if you don't eat much sugar. This tastes like plenty of sugar. And that's it. I hope you liked the video. Be sure to check out the other ladies' channels that I mentioned at the beginning. Yeah, this definitely tastes a lot better than it looks. Don't be scared to give this recipe a try. It really is easy. Let me know how it turns out for you, and thank you so much for watching. Thumbs up if you liked the video.